so
Misconception.
hello, it is
Slang came from a land where they suffer from the
and
effects of
Justin
depravity like gangbanging and earthquakes.
with Young Black and Married.
Yes, we're Young Black and Married. We are Young Black and Married.
We are. This is season 5, episode 2.
Yes, episode 2. Episode 2, we are back, Young Black and Married, here to educate and entertain about relationships and marriage and premarital things, or edutain, if you will.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It feels good to be back. It feels good to be out making content again, and it's so awesome to see you guys interacting with us. So please comment, like, share, do all the good things.
Subscribe, follow, everything.
We want to talk about marriage, and we want to build up young Black married couples, and we want to glorify God and let this be a positive force for your marriage. So
Yes.
that's why we're here.
Yes, absolutely. Want to encourage everybody out there that want to be married or are married or are engaged to be married.
Yeah.
We want to help out. We have some wisdom and we've seen some things. We've experienced some things ourselves, and we want to share our wisdom and experiences and our perspectives with you all.
Yep. Not the standard, but hey, you take it or leave it.
Right.
Follow YouTube. By the way, BTW, follow our YouTube page.
Yes, we're on YouTube right
We're
now.
on YouTube. So cool. So today, what are we talking about?
I don't know. What are we talking about?
We're
Ariel?
talking about some marriage misconceptions.
Misconceptions. Okay.
Yeah.
Misconceptions. What are the misconceptions about marriage? It's a few of them.
It's quite a few. Yeah, it's quite a few. Like, you know, marriage when you're not married and seeing everybody else getting married, and then it's like, oh my goodness, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for my wedding. I can't wait for this, and dreaming about your house and your spouse and what it's going to be like, and how every day you're going to do this, and you're going to wear lingerie, making eggs and breakfast and like
pancakes and waffles
pancakes.
and bacon and
Be careful frying that bacon in your lingerie. I'm just saying. You might need some protection. I am just saying.
That's true.
Whatever works for you.
That's true.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, so getting right into the marriage misconceptions. I guess number 1,
Yeah.
marriage will make me happy. Incorrect. Marriage will not make you happy. Just being married doesn't make you happy, right?
Yeah. No.
Because another word for marriage is WORK.
Okay.
Work is not always fun. And you're not always happy working. Now, not to say that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Not to say that's like a drag type of thing. But you have to put in work for the happiness, for the happy times. Yes, you're happy. You're on cloud 9. You're in the honeymoon phase to spend the rest of your life and be joyous and be laid up in bed and eat food and dream together, you know, with the love of your life, the most beautiful or finest person you ever seen, right? But, I mean, that honeymoon phase is the beginning, and you kind of have to continue to work
Yeah.
to reignite and continue the honeymoon phase or phases throughout the entire marriage, because there's valleys and lows and highs and mountaintops throughout it, and it's you have to put in work for it. You have to keep dating each other. You have to keep getting to know each other. It's not easy, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, but it's almost like, what were you before you got married? You're going to be that person. You're the same person. You know, you're not about to
Especially
just...
year 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Marriage does change you in a sense that, like, it's a refining process if you let it. You come together and you get sanctified. You help one another grow. You help one another just naturally. Like, the selfishness gets revealed. All those little spots in your character because for the first time, maybe for some, like you're like in close proximity 24/7 with someone of the opposite sex, and like you just see the differences. Some differences are just like natural because you're a man and a woman, and men and women are just different in general. And then you have those differences of personality that you work through. Some people fit together like a glove and they really don't really have disagreements. And some people's personalities are more like, whew, that's a lot. Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, and sometimes you can feel, because you might see someone else's marriage and you're thinking, dang, they always look happy. But when I go home, we at it. Like, we not happy at home when I go home. And then you see the other person and you compare.
Right.
But I mean, comparing.
Don't compare in public, because I'm telling you, it ain't always what you think. Most of the time, it ain't what you think.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but we could talk about that later. That's more of like a community talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. You know, especially, okay, so if we're talking to those people before they get married, you know, and then we could be talking to the people that are married that might be feeling like the gap between the expectation of what I thought would be and what I'm currently living. Like, I thought I would be happily ever after,
right?
Which is another one, sorry. But I'm not. And so something must be wrong with me. And what I would say to you is, marriage will not make you happy. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But you're still a person, and we're still living through life with ups, like he said, ups and downs, and now you're going through it with somebody else. Right. Which is so good. Right. It's so amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. So amazing.
But no, it won't. It won't make you happy. So if you want to get married to be happy, if you say, I want to be happy, I would be happy if I was just married.
Yeah. Keep going.
No, I'm just saying, reassess that.
Yeah, and one of the biggest lies, man, I've heard it, because once you're married and get some time under your belt, you know, you get married friends and etc. You start to talk to more married people, and then, you know, unfortunately, you know people that get divorced, and like one of the biggest lies and misconceptions, honestly, there is I left because I wasn't happy, or we wasn't happy. Like, it's like, man, you missing the whole, it's like, phew, it's going like right over your head. It's not about you. It's not about you. Marriage isn't about you. It's not. Your happiness is not. Yes, you want to be happy. Don't hear me saying that you aren't gonna have happy times and have a happy marriage, but it's not all about you in your marriage. Marriage is a 100 and 100. Everybody giving 100% all the time in love and work towards each other to help love and serve and cling to each other, because y'all are in it together. Y'all have been made one flesh. So it's not all about you.
And then, I mean, we've mentioned it, but I'm going to throw this in there a little bit too. Life hits you. Happiness is like an emotional state. Yeah. You're together. Maybe you were happy. One of you loses your job. One of you gets fired. One of your parents passes. Or you have a miscarriage. Or you have an injury. Or, you know, things happen in life. Like, you know, we've said it already, but just like those things, like happiness might not be all the time. What we want as believers is we want to have the joy of the Lord through all circumstances. Like, joy is a fruit of the Spirit. You should have joy at every stage of your marriage, right? Yep. Which is a fruit, like, but that happiness that, you know, it can come and go. Right. So we don't want to base the success of our marriage on, am I happy right now? That means it's a success.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't been happy. Some people will say, oh, I haven't been happy in 2 years. Well, I think you should y'all should have some open conversations, and y'all should go to counseling. Yeah. That's another sidebar. Everybody should be in premarital counseling. Yes. And, you know, even if you have a, you know, quote unquote good marriage, you should get that tune-up counseling session at least like once a year.
We had a situation in our marriage that came up, and I was like, let's go to counseling. We hadn't been in a while. Let's just go, because it was a heavy hit to us. And we were good with each other, but it was just like, I just want to make sure that we're processing this well. Right. And that we're not going to look up in a year and something major, and we're like, oh, that was the root of it. So we just went ahead to counseling, and we're like, listen, this is what's going on, and we sat and talked some things through, and it was good. It was good.
Gotta get that counselor. Gotta get that person who can be a great mediator, great middleman. Don't get mama or my best friend.
Yeah.
Don't get a professional, or get a pastor that you trust. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I was gonna say. Man, lean into your church relationships, your pastors, your lean into that.
For sure.
We went into that one kind of deeply. But it's real. I mean, it's really real. It's really real.
For sure. What
Misconception number 2. I won't be lonely anymore. What do you think about that?
It's an interesting one.
It is. It really is.
It's a really interesting one, because I mean, I can't speak from my perspective, because that wasn't ever a thought for me. But I'd be really more interested to see because I know it's a real thing. I'd be interested to see from a perspective of women, like what are they like? What are their thought processes going into it, thinking like that, and like why, and what's the root behind it? Yeah.
So I will say, loneliness is something I kind of have dealt with in my life. I kind of grew up, I was homeschooled, and I was by myself a lot growing up, And so which is honestly a good thing in some ways maybe not. But I would say this lonely piece is that some people can be lonely in a room full of people. And some people can be lonely in a marriage. Yep. They absolutely can be lonely in a marriage. And I think sometimes there might be seasons where people feel this way, especially if they're looking to their spouse to fulfill a need that their spouse is not really supposed to feel or fulfill. So I would say it like this. For the person that is expecting their spouse to be their all in all, or the person that's expecting their spouse to satisfy their every desire, they can feel lonely. And it's not necessarily their spouse's fault. It's because they put something, an expectation of what their spouse was supposed to be on their spouse. Yeah. And they couldn't meet it. So they end up feeling lonely because there are certain things that aren't met. But sometimes the spouse is really just not meeting those needs. You know what I'm saying? Right. That's really the case for some people, to where you're saying like, hey, I'm in this marriage, but I feel lonely because she's checked out. Right. And he's checked out. And if you're married for a length of time, like you don't want that, but it's possible that could come up. Right. So it's like, in that situation, what is the response? How do you handle it? How do you handle it when you say, well, I see they're going through something and we're just not connecting right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes me think of people who are literally just getting married to not be lonely because they just want another person to connect with. And man, that will, you are just setting yourself up for catastrophic failure, because not only you will eventually hit a wall of like, oh wow, this isn't working, but you also have another entire human being who is basically being lied to and having like their whole foundation in life based on something that you just, an itch that you want to fulfill. So it's a grave danger to lead in with that, because it's a big deal. These divorces are catastrophic. Yeah. Because they're not supposed to happen. For one, we're not really designed to deal with that. God doesn't want, God hates divorce. Yeah. We all understand that in the word. Now you have your different reasons why it's, kind of accepted, but other than those two reasons, it's like you gotta fight it out. Yeah.
Another way that I think of too is I can think of a lot of moms that are in that beginning stage. Maybe you're a single, not single, maybe you're a work from home mom, or maybe you are just a stay at home mom and dad is at work and you're at home with a baby all day and you are just there. Some dads, travel, and it can look a lot of different ways. And so for that person to say, well, I'll never be lonely, and then they hit those, there can really be patches when you might feel that way. There can be patches, but then it's like, how do you handle that? Do you lean into the Lord? Like, do you lean into prayer, or do you have those relationships or those friendships? There's a lot of different scenarios. And sometimes people, like, when they're like, well, I feel lonely, they can try to look outside of their marriage to fulfill some type of lonely space. Right. Or, it's
a domino effect.
It is. It's a domino effect. But I think
don't want to go down that road.
In those situations, having an open line of communication with your spouse and being able to say, hey, I'm feeling lonely. I know you're there, but I feel so disconnected from you right now. Like, I don't feel you. Because you can literally be with someone, like even this distance that we are.
This close.
And not feel them because they're just checked out, and it just happens. And so, like, as a believer or as a married person, we don't have the control of where our spouse will be. We only have the control of where we are. And so, yeah, I think that's a misconception, that I won't be lonely.
Right. That's good. Number 3 and 4 kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But number 3 is I won't find other people attractive.
My. Well.
Hold
up. So you get married, you walk down the aisle, and then you come from the ceremony. And you're like, boop, my eyes have just shut off to
my eyes
every
have changed.
Attractive person
I
in the world.
am so in love that I don't even see other people's faces anymore.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So what do you think about that? A misconception is I won't find other people attractive.
Yeah, that's a bad one. That's you're in for a rude awakening. Just like regular day, you're at work, or if you're at a restaurant or at the grocery store, like, or you're watching TV, everybody has their Beyonce or Halle Berry's, or in some people's cases, the Idris Elba's, or depending on your age bracket, Denzel, or the new people, Michael B. Jordan, or stuff like that.
He said the new people.
The young folks, the young people. Y'all young people, y'all know. So
Facebook. How do you handle that? You say, "Oh wow, I didn't think that I would find people attractive now that I'm married, but people are still attractive. What do I do?" How do you handle that?
So you handle that with living life and keep walking and turn around. That's how you handle that.
Keep walking.
That's how you handle that. I mean, like, you're not in the game no more. You out the game. So, yes, you can see as clear as day. Other people are very beautiful, handsome, attractive, whatever. It's clear. Mm-hmm. But when you start to, like, oh, I'm a linger around over here a little bit. I'm gonna start talking, or I'm gonna present myself in this area, or I'm gonna flirt back when I'm at work, or I'm gonna entertain this. I ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm gonna do, and that's a slippery slope. Listen to me, that is a slippery slope you do not want to go down. And praise God, I'm not speaking from experience, but I'm speaking from experience from what I've seen other people do. Lust leads to sin. And that sin, when it comes full grown, it becomes death. Because of that sin that you initially initially started off with like, oh, they kind of cute. I'm gonna just talk with them a little bit, talk with them a little bit, just, flirt with them a little bit. That goes to, oh, well, we just hanging out, my wife, my husband don't know, we just hanging out a little bit. Then that comes to a full-on adultery. Y'all sleeping together. Got this whole other issue going on. Somebody's pregnant. And then it becomes, when that sin becomes full grown, it becomes death. And what is death? Death is a separation of something that was alive, something that was supposed to be alive and connected to a source of life. Mm-hmm. That doesn't necessarily always mean death of a life, like per se, a human life, but it could be a death of a relationship, death of a child, a spouse, death of a job, or death of a career or image or, money. Like it can crumble so many things. And I've seen it up close. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because you also have the heartbreak and the trust and the possible divorce on your hand. But then you also have this death component of like, man, I've killed something. Something has been murdered in this whole scenario. So it's a lot of rebuilding and a lot of frustration in that. And you want to stay away from that. That ain't good. That's in James, by the way.
Yeah, and when you were talking, I thought about Proverbs 5, verse 18. It says, let your fountain be blessed and rejoice with the wife of your youth. Let me see, verse 19. And it says, as a loving deer and a graceful doe, let her breast satisfy you at all times and always be enraptured with her love. Mm-hmm. And then, like, why should you be enraptured with an immoral woman and be embraced by the arms of a seductress? It's like, you got your own wife, the wife of your youth, the wife that you picked. Yes, you might find someone, oh, wow, they're beautiful or quote unquote attractive. But no, like, you have to have firm boundaries, like, keep it moving. Honestly, that's kind of my motto with things. I keep it moving. I don't linger and have like conversations personally. Mm-hmm. If someone I might find them attractive, you won't find me having a conversation with them for the most part. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. If it can be avoided, just because I'm like, you know what? The flesh is the flesh, and
right. You don't want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to just be staring into somebody that you think is gorgeous eyes. That's
somebody.
Too long,
I see some hearts going. I think
your
someone
eyes,
agrees.
like, it's like your eyes and your mind just starts wondering. It's like, yes.
Hey, we just being
get out of that.
We just being a little raw at the moment, but honestly, I keep it moving. Mm-hmm. I keep it pushing. Like, hey, how are you? Great, let's go. Where we going?
Right.
And also, in the way, like, as a woman, like the way that I wear my clothes or carry myself, like, I'm conscious, like, this is my husband. I want to be beautiful in how I carry myself, but I don't ever want to have a seductiveness to the way that I carry myself. Mm-hmm. Some men are like, yeah, I want people to look at my wife or blah, blah, blah.
Which is the most foolish thing.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, and there was someone at one point had a wife that was doing this, a scene in a movie that was sexual, and like, I want people to think that it was real or blah blah blah. But personally, like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, no. So as men and women and men too, like, when you're married, you carry yourself in a way, both in how you appear, but also in the way that you interact with other men and women of the opposite sex. Mm-hmm. Like, it's off. We ain't up for grabs. Mm-hmm. There is no open light over us. We closed. We shut down for business, right?
Right.
Shut down.
Don't do that.
Absolutely. So, that is something to keep in mind. Like, yes, visually people might be attractive or beautiful or handsome, but the way that you carry yourself You keep them barriers and boundaries exact, like, you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't act and pretend like you don't know you.
Don't
you
pretend.
know who you are. Don't play games.
And
if anything, err on the side of caution.
Right. If you was a player or like, you know, you dated a lot, you know, back in the day, hey, you know your alleys and ways that you entered into those conversations and had those relationships and friends and how you snapped on people. Like, just all of it got to be cut off because you don't want to have that door open.
And then you don't want the conversation with your spouse saying, hey, I don't like the way you talk to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might think, I was just being normal. Like, what do you mean?
And if your spouse saying it,
you don't want
other
that.
people can see it too.
And ultimately, they're kind of the standard for, you know, like, if they saying it like, oh, really? That wasn't okay. Let me not do it, you know? So you always want to carry yourself. I think there's a Bible verse that says not even to have like certain things named among you. Like, you want to be in a certain way that unbelievers can't even be like, yeah.
They ain't even got that on you.
You just want to carry yourself in a particular way.
Yeah.
Not for people to say like, yeah, that Justin,
like,
he a flirt.
Right, just like not going to the bar or going to a strip club with the bros. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself in that situation? Because you look horrible.
Oh my. The next one. This one I feel like is really hitting for this generation because the internet came in and wiped out so many people when it comes to pornography. So many people got wrapped up, caught up, and deal with this issue. So the next misconception is, if I had a porn addiction, it will go away when I get married.
That's how I was saying it kind of goes with the third one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like your mind has to be renewed, and your mind has to be, you have to have these barriers and these gates to like keep you on a straight path, because just because you're getting married and you have somebody that you can, you know, have sex with and be fulfilled in that area with, doesn't mean you're not gonna find other people attractive, doesn't mean you're not gonna like have these urges. So you have to keep yourself, you got to have that open line of communication, for one, with your spouse, and then you also have to have that open line of communication with yourself and God to set yourself straight. You got to be like, okay, I know I can't handle this, or I know I ain't always been like this, so let me put these barriers up to set myself up for success.
Yeah.
You want to set yourself up for success. Don't just come in thinking willy-nilly blind like, oh, we good. I got the woman of my dreams. She bad. She beautiful. She got this and that on her. And like, I'm good. No. Like, we've seen it all the time. We've all seen it. Like, you know, from the worldly standard. How in the world did Jay-Z cheat on Beyonce? Wow. Arguably, like, you know, people say like she's the most beautiful person ever. Yeah. It's like, obviously he had some holes in there that weren't like being.
Hold up. HOLE?
Yes. Holes. Sorry. Obviously he had some gaps in his mind and the way he was thinking that wasn't being fulfilled. So, or that wasn't healed.
In that power trip.
So that goes for a lot of things. So
there are some young people that might be struggling with pornography, and you're saying, well, if I could just get married, then that will handle this. Or no, it's not. Like, you need to handle that now. You don't just be like, oh, I'm just trying to get there. Handle it. And so some people might say, well, how do I handle this? At some point, this is a demonic spirit that needs to be casted out and broken off of your life. I definitely would encourage fasting. I definitely would encourage that. Deliverance and mind renewal, and setting up some barriers, my friend. Some barriers. Maybe we ain't looking at TV. Maybe we, like the apostle at our church, we got a dumb phone. You know what I'm saying?
Like the flip phone.
You live with someone, you turn your phone in at a certain time because...
Like, hello?
Yeah, man. Like, that's something you have to fight for, and it's something that has to be broken off of your mind. And so I would definitely encourage you to do that before you get married. Don't get married and expect like this is going to be the solution, because then I'll be able to, have a sexual release in marriage. it's an addiction. It's a full-blown addiction. And some people say that it is just as bad as something like a cocaine or a heroin as far as the dopamine
Goes
release.
in your brain.
Yeah, it's this whole thing. And so if someone's listening to that and you're dealing with this particular area, I definitely would say, hey, go to your pastor, go through deliverance, go on a fast, consecration, and set up some barriers and know that you can't do the same thing and yet expect different results.
Right. And it's also like, with that same way of thinking, it's also with kind of what I was talking about earlier. Like, if you were a player or if you were dating around and like, oh, this is my favorite girl I've been messing with, so I'm gonna marry her, and she's like nice and she can cook and clean, so I'm gonna marry her. Whoa, wrong way of thinking. Because yes, you got arguably the girl of your dreams, but you ain't fixed that issue within yourself. You just cold turkey quit the whole quote unquote player life, but you got to set up because you was this person 30 days ago. That doesn't necessarily mean you completely changed just because you got a ring and you get, legally are married. So you got to change your minds. Reconciliation. I mean, not renewal.
Clear that junk out. It's like, whoo, like old program is so much junk we can have in our minds, and it's just working, and our actions are going off of what's in our mind, and we're doing these cycles, and you'll just carry those cycles into your marriage, and the two of y'all will just be on the long cycle, going up, circle, whoop, boop, 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 boop. You know the dryer be bumping, boom, boom, boop, boop, boop. You put shoes in it. So yeah, like, do the work. All right, number 5. We will live happily ever after. All of my problems will go away. That would be interesting if that happened.
That'd be nice.
But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If you had $10,000 in debt before, when you get married, you still going to have your $10,000 plus whatever he might have or she might have.
And I had more.
He did have more. So whatever it is, like, it's not this magic pill, ladies. I know, and men, I don't know if men think about it that way, but I think women do. Like, oh man, it's just going to be happily ever after. And man, this is really just to challenge. We don't want to speak down on marriage because literally we love marriage.
It's great.
We literally encourage everybody to do it. But lots of these hit me when I first got married because I was like, wait, this didn't happen? This didn't happen? But no, it will not be a happily ever after situation. All your problems will not be magically fixed. And it seems simple to say, but somebody needs to hear it. I know it. If it's you, let us know. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know if that's you.
All right. Number 6.
I can change or fix my spouse. Look, I still been trying to do this, and it ain't worked yet. So I'm telling y'all, I'm 8 years in the game, and it ain't working. You can't change her. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, like Jason.
He said kind of kidding.
Unless you're gonna do it. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's definitely not it. Thinking you can change or fix them because you didn't create them. You don't have no strings. You ain't Geppetto. You can't. Or if you are doing that, you're only creating a monster. You're not dealing with Pinocchio.
Yeah.
So Pinocchio eventually is gonna rebel or be super unhappy, and things will spiral out of control like that.
That was a really weird movie, by the way. Pinocchio? That was weird. I didn't like it.
She doesn't like a lot of movies, y'all. It's okay.
Seeing that as a child is like, what the heck is this? What's going on?
They got a new one out, too.
Oh.
But anyhow.
Didn't he get eaten by a whale?
I don't know. I don't even remember the story. I just remember his nose kept growing because he was lying or something.
And they broke it off and opened the well. I said, I don't know. They had so much psychological programming in these movies that we were looking at, y'all. Okay.
Right. So no, you won't be able to fix them or change them. With that thinking, if you want to help them, if you want to encourage them or help strengthen them in something, there's different ways you can do that. You can be like, hey, yeah, the women have that that super woman helpful way of like, hey, yeah, I was thinking like this, or, oh yeah, honey, that was a good idea. What do you think about this way? Like, y'all have this encouraging, once that skill gets unlocked.
It's a skill set unlocked.
Once you get that skill set unlocked, you be like, oh, okay, yeah. And then over time, you're like, as a man, you're like, oh, okay, I understand. Okay.
So I have a question for you. Like, what if there's a lady and like her husband is just like really not doing well in some areas, and she kind of she's been trying to change it, but it's just not working, and she comes to this place of like, well, what do I do? Like, what do you think? And it's legit, those areas are legit areas that need to be adjusted.
Well, I think one thing you can do is having that open line of communication doesn't come off like you're trying to be his mom, doesn't come off like you're trying to be his boss or manipulate him. Know how he communicates, know how he receives well, and try to draw it out for him in a calm, cool, collective way that you can, talk to him on his level so he doesn't feel like disrespected as a man, because it's very important that your husband feels respected in the areas that you feel like he is weak in or needs correction or help in growth. It's just that open line of communication, like, hey, this is what I think. What do you think? Or I feel like us together, because I know I struggle or I'm not good at this, da-da-da. What do you think about when you do da-da-da-da-da? Or I heard this message at church. What are your thoughts on that? Or I really feel like we should be growing in this area, but we're not. What do you think as I like something like that?
Yeah. Almost like it sounds a lot like, what's that word? Social intelligence. Like,
yes, I am an AI.
I'm just artificial.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And so what, like, as far as respect, like, what does that respect look like for a man?
It's the language. It's the language and the way you say things. Because typically, I mean, I would think you wouldn't try to do this year one, like,
What's that?
Like, try to change or encourage somebody to, do something different or do something better.
I mean, some people enter marriage with that mindset.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Y'all are setting up for fireworks if you're trying to do this year one. Just let you know. No, bad idea. Next page.
Yeah.
But no, hopefully you're thinking about this year 2, year 3, and giving each other a little patience, a little room to grow, if need be. But if it's not anything drastic or super crazy, so yeah.
It makes me think of a few things. It makes me think, like kind of like we said already. If you are like engaged / dating, you're like, yeah, we're gonna get married, but I just need, when we get married, I'm gonna make sure that she this, or he's like this, and you already have like a list of things that you're ready to change. Whew. So,
my mama.
One way that I would encourage you to process a relationship is, if this person does not change at all, could I live with them for the rest of my life?
Extremely, that's one of the best questions you can ask yourself.
I would encourage you to ask this question. If they stayed like this for the rest of our time together, could I do this? Because is it likely that they will improve? It is likely, yes. Is it guaranteed? It's really not. It's not.
Nope.
So
it all depends on the person.
Yeah. So if where you are right now, you're saying, I can't do this with them like this. They're going to have to be X, Y, blah, 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 and this way, and this way, and this way. I don't know. I would really say lean into your counseling and open all of this up, right? Because yes, most people do change, and man, they change a lot. But even the fact that that question is at the forefront, it's like, it's almost unfair to them too, because when you do your vows, you're saying, I'm accepting you in sickness and health, and pretty much you're saying, I accept you as you are. But if in the back of your mind you're saying, I'm accepting you as you are, but this is going to have to be different. You're going to have to change. It's almost like you're not really being true. Mm-hmm. And it's almost unfair to that person, because they're saying, I'm being accepted as I am, but in the mind of the other person, you're not. So it's almost like a manipulation, and it's unfair. It's almost like a lack of truth, And so I really would encourage, like, if you are in that dating and you're in that engagement phase and you feel like, man, I really can't do this. If they're not like this, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. Really ask yourself, what are you doing?
Ask yourself.
Ask, because the intention is for this to be for life. And don't marry someone you don't want to be with. Don't do it. If you don't want to be with them, release them to someone that would actually love them how they are. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I'm going to lock you in for life, and I really don't like you as you are. But that person that could have doesn't even have the ability. And that's something.
My.
That's really something. Oh, we were talking about this. Did we talk about this the other day, that there are people that, like, I might have heard this in a Jordan Peterson talk. People that might have been in a relationship for like 10 years. And the moment they break up, like within 4 months, that person, or 6 months or 7 months, that person is married to somebody else.
Literally.
Because that, like, married to somebody else. And it's like, you just have to think, like, you might be wandering around this, like, ring around the rosy with this person, like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not this. Release them to someone else.
That's a whole...
Don't do it.
Another podcast.
That's another podcast.
That I'm going to do, or that we're going to do.
Yeah.
And that it involves heavily on the men.
Yeah.
That is just... Yeah, that's just heavily on the men.
Yeah.
If you're going past 2 years dating a girl and y'all ain't married or engaged yet, the man's playing. But that's a whole nother thing. I mean, really, it could be a year, but, give you another year.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I've been listening to Jordan Peterson some, and he was talking with this man that studies, like, statistics and trends, and he studies, like, the birth population for the world. And in a lot of countries, the birth rate is no longer at the replacement rate, meaning people are not having enough babies to stabilize the population. The population is shrinking. And once that starts, it's like a domino effect. And so he was saying, like, a lot of people, once they get to a certain age, the likelihood of them getting married diminishes so much. And then Jordan Peterson was like, yes, a lot of people think they kind of have more time than they do. And they will waste a lot of times in relationships that they know aren't right for them. And you think you have, like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna, but it's like, no, if I don't want it to say like it's urgent, but it's like, if this is not the person. It
is urgent.
Like, you just need to cut it.
It is urgent.
It is. Yeah, it is. And he, the time frame was like roughly like 4 relationships or whatever, which we pray that it can be done in a lot of, in less. But the sooner you realize it, just like, okay, this isn't going to work with, and this is where sexual purity comes in, because it makes things easier, and that's God's way. Like, those are a lot of other episodes we can talk about.
Yes, for sure.
Those things, but, don't come into it with the idea of, I want to change them. Like, don't do it.
Nope.
Don't do it. They will change.
Don't do it.
They will change. Like, who my husband is now, like, bruh, when I first got married, like, he is literally, like, to be honest, he's like my dream husband, to be honest. He really is. Our year 1 was a struggle. It was a struggle boat. Mm-hmm. But, like, you see your spouse mature so much, especially when they're pursuing God, especially when they're chasing after God and have accountability. And it's amazing. So don't hear me say that your spouse is not going to grow and improve, because we hope, we pray. And when you're in alignment with God, you will. But it's kind of like the heart behind it. I see some sad eyes. Come on, drop some comments. I want to know what you guys are thinking. Y'all been silent today.
Yeah, we on Facebook Live as well.
Yeah, y'all been silent. So, but it's almost like that release too. Like that release of like,
right.
Okay, God, I trust you. I trust you with my spouse, and where they are right now, I really don't like it. I'm gonna be honest, God. Mm-hmm. But I'm believing and praying. That's when that prayer closet comes really in handy, and where counseling can come in an open line of communication, and all of that can come in handy. But no, don't enter it with the idea of like, I'm gonna change them. Even with style and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can, but like, you just gotta let them be great. That's my friend says that all the time. You gotta let him be great. All right, number 7.
I will be closer to God when I get married. No.
I'm curious about the male perspective to that.
I never thought like this, but I think I've heard this before. Mm-hmm. Just feeling like that, I have crossed the Christian male threshold. Therefore, I am, I'm going with, you are going with the design. You are going with what God has for us and what he designed us to do, and, display that. But that doesn't mean you have arrived. I mean, there's so much. That doesn't mean you have arrived to be this ultimate man of God, this ultimate Christian. Doesn't mean that you're checking off the boxes. You still have to put in the work. You still have to work out your own salvation. Mm-hmm. You still have to love her like Christ loved the church. Like, you still have to do all these things. You have to die daily. You have to do all these things. Like, it's just like your relationship with God. Like, my wife can't repent for my sins for me. She can't believe in God for me, in a sense, for me to be saved. It doesn't work that way. I have to have my own relationship. I have to believe myself. She can pray and fast and encourage me in all of it, but my choice is my choice. My body, my choice.
Wow.
But yeah, my spirit, my choice.
Yeah, so like as a lady, when you're a single lady, because we hear about marriage like the husband's the head and he's the spiritual leader and this and that. So I believe that, I know I did, I'll speak for myself. I believe I know I had a wrong perspective of like what it would look like when we got married. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, if we reading the Bible, we're going to be reading the Bible together every morning. Or if we praying, we're going to be doing this together every morning. And some couples flow like that. Some couples really do. But I think I had in my brain that it was going to work in a certain way that we didn't really discuss. But it's like, and I think I know I relinquished in our early years too much of my spiritual walk with God to him. Just not understanding, how does that really work? Like, he's the head, I'm the wife, and Christ is over him. And like, but it's like, child, you got your own relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you pass away, it's going to be you and God, And so to not relinquish that to them, because I think I did that in the beginning. I had to learn how to grab it back. Like, I kind of was like, okay, well, and I relinquished part of my walk with the Lord. And I had to figure out what that looked like. Like, what does it look like? Or what does it look like if you're doing this and they're doing something different? To have your own relationship with God and not to think that when you get married, I don't know how to say it, that they replace, maybe that's what it was. Like, they don't replace God. They don't replace the Holy Spirit. Like, your spouse is not your God. Your spouse is not your Holy Spirit. God's not going to be like, to you. Yes, he's the head. So in some ways, like, he's guiding and leading, directing, but you got your own relationship. You hear him? Like, you guys are flowing and going together. And it took a minute for that to click. Yeah, it took a minute for that to click. So if there's some young woman or early marriage and you might be dealing with that, like, get your Bible, get your word, and you have your own relationship with God.
Yes.
And let me say this to you.
Okay.
Woman, you might outpace your spouse. Don't tone down your growth with God because you say, well, he's not there, so I'm just gonna lay back, or you go, you run, like you run with the Lord, because the more you're with God, you're just gonna become a better spouse. You're just gonna become more of the wife that you're supposed to be.
Message.
Really? Yeah.
We need to start saying that more.
Yeah. You know how those people be having those like bong, little buttons.
Yeah, we ain't got there yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, like don't pump the brakes because you see that, oh, he didn't really pray today, so I'm not gonna pray today. No, baby, you better pray. You better do what you do. Do what you do. You better fast. Like. Ask them though. We kind of have that thing where we kind of like let them know. If it's like an extended one, we'll be like, because it says that in the scripture. Mm-hmm. If ever I've gone on a long one, I usually ask Justin like, hey, what do you think? Is this good? Mm-hmm. But anywho, that was that.
8 of them. Yeah. No, that was 7. 7, sorry.
So, yeah, there's a lot here. So please post your comments, your questions.
Yes. Let us know what you think. Yeah. Was this helpful? Which one do you connect with the most? Which one have you experienced? Which one are you kind of like, I don't know about this? Yeah. Yeah, let us know. We love to get your feedback. We want to hear from you all.
Absolutely.
Yes, so like, share, follow, subscribe, and we will see y'all later. Leave a review.
Absolutely.
When you hear this on your
podcast.
5-star
review.
5-star review.
Whatever your review is.
We love y'all. We thank y'all for listening. All right.
Bye-bye.